And we're back with episode 3 of Myles Files. This is your host, Myles. And yes, I did just start that intro with a pen between my teeth. And that is a tactic that I learned from my telemarketing days to have a smile on your face whenever you start a call. So, welcome back, everybody. Thanks for taking the time to listen to my thoughts, and hopefully, from today's episode, you can take something applicable from the stuff that I'm doing with my life, and whether it's start some dialogue, start some action, if it's a project you've been sitting on for a while, um, anything creative and constructive and positive, that's what I'm here to spread. So, um, yeah, to kick things off, um, last week I would have mentioned that one of the cornerstone habits that I'm trying to implement into my life right now is waking up at 5 a.m. And I would say that had about a 60% success ratio this week. I would say up until Thursday, I was waking up just before 5. That was that was pretty solid because that gave me, I like to call it, a whole extra half day uh, just added on to my day opposed to waking up at 9 like the previous week. So, um, I mean, it brings to mind a quote from a writer called William Ward, who basically, in a nutshell, said that you need to be doing the things that other people aren't doing. So if people are asleep, then you should be up doing something. If people are loafing, then you should be working on something. If people are scared, then you should be calm. At least that's how I interpret his quote. So um, it brings to mind like this bigger concept that I don't know who put on my radar, but uh, it's basically that successful people do the things that other people aren't willing to do, and it's as simple as that. Um, and that kind of made me confident in the things that I've been spending my time on in the past couple of months. A lot of it has been background work with not a lot of recognition, which I'm fine with. But in those times, a lot of self doubt might creep in if you don't have, let's call it, feedback loops with people constantly either telling you you're doing a good or bad job. Um, so, so yeah, to really be able to check yourself is a hard skill, and not a lot of people can do it. And I'm trying. And this recording right now is just a part of that process. Um, so yeah, as I said, about a 60% success ratio from Monday to Thursday, waking up just before 5, and that gave me what I like to call, well, not what I like to call, but I read this book called The 5 a.m. Club by Robin Sharma, and basically how he breaks out the concept of the 5 a.m. club is that you take the hour from 5 to 6 a.m. and you break it into 20-minute chunks. So his philosophy is that you spend the first 20 minutes of your day building some kind of sweat just to get your blood pumping in your brain and your body. Secondly, he recommends taking time to well, I'm not sure because the way I adapted it is that I'm gonna take that time to then just take a quick shower, drink a smoothie is what I usually do. Um, just because I heard that fruit is one of the fastest digesting foods, and yeah, if I'm waking up at this time, I don't want to be slowing myself down with anything. And I also am not that good of a cook, so smoothies also the most convenient option. And then, yeah, basically you spend the last 20 minutes of that hour just kind of prepping for the day, putting your mind into a book is what I usually do. I have a journal at all times, and I'm just constantly jotting down whatever comes to mind. So yeah, that's honestly another cornerstone habit that I didn't even realize was a habit, but I have at least 8 or 9 of these journals just built up from the past 3 years. Um, and I mean, it's probably an index of my brain, so that it would be something cool to pass on to someone. Um, but yeah, otherwise, um, beyond 6 a.m., the concept is that that first 90 minutes of the start of your day, um, because between 5 and 6 a.m., obviously you've started your day, but this habit is supposed to be so ingrained that it is just to be able to start your day of, let's call it, unknowns. So the first thing you want to do is get your most important thing done for that day. Again, this is Robin Sharma's philosophy that I'm just trying to hold on to for day life as much as I can. So between 6 to 7:30, you're supposed to just identify that one thing that do or die at the end of today. You consider it to be the most important thing you need to do that day and just get it done. Some people could call it like swallowing the frog, and you just get like the hardest thing done that day, which could already be the fact that you had to wake up that early and do the exercise and whatnot. But yeah, in terms of your work, I guess, whether it's personal work or at least for me, again think that if I'm going to be up at that time, that I don't want to be working on things for other people per se. At least I don't want to say that in a transactional way, but let's say you have a job, you don't want to be doing work for your boss unless that is the most important thing in your life. But at least personally, my, let's call it, a locus of control, not a locust like the terrible bugs, but a locus. And that concept is basically just what you are in control of versus what you're not in control of. And at the end of the day, you can really only be in control of yourself and the things that you do and think and say and act on. So, yeah, that being said, let me turn that noise off. Uh, Basically, that being said, I decided to make that first 90 minutes of the day like my personal goals. So let's say, for example, I'm trying to start a business. I might spend that first 90 minutes of the day like shooting out some emails to potential clients or trying to engage in some kind of value generating activity for my business. Or another example is if you're in school, you get that one assignment that you need to get done by the end of the day done. And the mentality behind not only having that first hour of rock solid habit in your day, but now you've done the one thing that you need to do today. I mean, some people could be like, okay, I could go back to sleep, and yeah, technically, if that's what you want to do, you can take a nap and then wake up and then have a whole other day having done what you needed to do for that day. So yeah, for me, I just decided to push through for the full day, and someone just planted the concept in my mind of you want to be able to just finish your day like crashing in your bed and knocking straight out. You don't want to be scrolling on your phone, which obviously everyone does, or just like up and you can't fall asleep. You want to have spent your day in such a way and spent your time and energy in such a way that you just lights out as soon as you hit bed. So yeah, that was a relative success that I am going to try and keep buckling down on. I have a couple accountability partners, Deefy, Rosa, calling y'all out. They're naturally up around those times, so just touching base with them. And even DeSudes, actually. DeSudes is up at 4:30, and he's a huge inspiration, so yeah, I'm gonna be just touching base with those people because the social accountability is a a big tool to getting things done. So, I mean, to talk about what else went well this week, um, I I've been doing a lot of interviews in a lot of different ways, and literally only one of me being interviewed, which I'm not even going to talk about, but um, the 99% of the time I am asking people questions, and I'm trying to figure out if this is my strength or not. But it's definitely something I like to do. It might seem that I like to hear my own voice, but more times than not, I guess to kick off this second half of the 2 points that I'm going to use this time to get across is that you shouldn't really believe everything you think. And I'm not going to say that wholeheartedly, I'm going to elaborate a bit, but yeah, I think every thought that comes into your mind, while you could perceive it as being genuine in that you thought of it yourself, or seemingly so, it might have been someone else planted the concept in your brain however long ago. But I guess the concept is that whatever comes into your mind, you should check yourself and check that idea specifically, because you don't want to make a fool of yourself. You don't want to convince yourself that something is true and then go about trying to convince other people it's true just to find out that it's not. So I guess the value of truth to me is paramount. Truth and trust. Those are two things, I guess they go hand in hand. I'm not any guru per se, but I guess to tie it back to the first point of what you can control, being yourself mainly, the next best thing outside of yourself is other people. And the only way to not necessarily feel like you're in control of other people, but to have a two-way, like any relationship goes two ways, and you want to make sure that at the end of the day, that relationship, if you're spending time on it now, at least for me, that is a relationship that you want to spend time on for the rest of your life. So a very cool idea or philosophy that a gentleman that I interviewed earlier this week, well, I interviewed him months ago, but I edited the interview this week, and it put back onto my radar the concept of servant leadership. And basically, he goes about his life thinking, what can I do for other people in such a way that it accomplishes what they need done primarily, while simultaneously accomplishing what I want to get done. And I think that's how a lot of people, or maybe everyone is well intentioned in that way, that they don't want to be selfish, but at the end of the day, when it comes to putting food on the table, you have to kind of defend your own. So yeah, the concept of it's funny, when Cubby was here, because Cubby now moved back to Trinidad, but when he was here, we had a good conversation about, and again, I might not want to trust my own thoughts, but we kind of just discussed if capitalism makes people less inclined to share, basically, and less inclined to be more generous. So maybe I should do some research into that, because I would love to. I think not. I think when people are kind of minding their own business, quote unquote, it kind of conditions the brain to do just that and mind your own rather than others. So I guess to tie everything back together, the concept of trust is that if you're going to include other people in your life, you want to be able to trust those people in a way that you can do things with them and not have to worry about if they're gonna either take your idea or take your feelings or take anything from you. You want to expect that you give to them and they give to you. So that is obviously an ideal situation, which is why, let's say from years ago, I might have had like subtle hints of this in my mind, um, to think, okay, who am I spending my time with? Because I would have spent a lot of time with a lot of people in my younger years, um, but now, and I would say from 6 or 7 years ago, I just got very selective with who I spent my time with in person, who I spent my time talking to, and I wouldn't have it any other way because it ties all these points together of just being able to trust people. Um, so that being said, to build on trust, and not being able to really trust yourself, the main way that I've found myself checking myself is talking to, let's call them like-minded people. So, firstly, to kind of elaborate on these interviews that I've been mentioning for the past couple of weeks, I've been interviewing Canada's top 30, under 30 sustainability leaders. They've all done a wide spectrum of activities. And basically, I've decided to just ask them very simple questions on what they're most widely known for, who their people are, what are their core values, what do they plan to have done by the end of this year, and what does their 5-year plan look like? And with those open-ended questions, I just got just so much value out of hearing their ideas out, and again, not trusting that their ideas are true per se, but rather checking my own preconceived notions of the concept of something. So, so that being said, I'm in these final stages of editing these interviews, but just realizing that that was almost like a strength of mine. And then I would have mentioned the Hack the Curve challenge last week, which is basically a challenge to make some kind of solution to a COVID-related problem. That ended up in me thinking, okay, let's start a business again, because I have a history of owning a painting business, and that went well, but I closed that down, and now I want to figure out what industry is more suitable to my strengths. So, in thinking that maybe asking questions is a strength, that was just there on my radar. A. B. I downloaded this program called 100 Steps to Startup by Dr. Sean Wise. It is a 100-step virtual video / worksheet program on how to successfully start and scale a profitable business. I say this very slow because it's a resource that I would highly recommend. If you're a student, I paid $40 US for it online. And I would consider that a worthwhile, very minor investment in yourself compared to the potential benefits of starting and scaling a profitable business. So, yeah, the first couple of steps of this program basically flip the concept of a 20th century business to, and how it differs from a 21st century business. So, that being said, instead of having a solution in mind that you go in a garage and spend years developing until it's perfect, um, what you basically do is flip that process, and you don't start with a preconceived notion in mind. And instead, what you do is you firstly try to figure out what demographic you are a part of, because you can kind of check yourself to see what kind of problems are you experiencing. Um, and once you figure out what demographic you're a part of, so in my case, it was an undergraduate student, um, I made a list of other undergraduate students that uh, I thought might be experiencing similar problems. So I touched base with some friends and colleagues, both in Trinidad, in Canada, in the States. So I got a very international perspective on problems that my demographic is experiencing. And that was just this week. That is the research that I'm doing, and I'm following these steps to methodically and strategically position myself to come out of this pandemic in a controlled, ideal situation. So, um, the other way that that went really well is that I talked with Luke, and Luke Pounder. Together, we decided to mobilize one of his ideas that he's been sitting on for a little while. And in realizing that between the two of us, we don't really have the exact skill sets and expertise and perspectives that we need, we drafted in Wesley's perspective, Wesley Scott, um, and he he was willing to help. As simple as that. Um, and these are very small, simple things that just, it's going to sound so corny, so prepare yourself. But to me, that is the essence of life, is to have human collaboration in a very genuine way, where people don't feel forced to be anywhere, to do anything, that people can feel free to talk and do things, anything they please, whenever they want. Obviously, this is like an ideal situation. It's not any political perspective, so nobody try and read between any lines, but it's as simple as that. Is to me, that was one of the highlights of the week, is just getting these two guys on a call, and seeing that if you can get the right people with the right backgrounds and the similar mindsets together, that basically magic can happen. So we'll see where that goes. But yeah, that was the week, and I'm looking forward to this week. But I would love to hear how other people's weeks went in relation to stuff that I've talked about. If anything has resonated with you, um, touch base, like I've already had a couple of people touch base. And as you can see, just by touching base with people, quote unquote magic can happen. So especially in this time of just being cooped up, like I'm personally in an apartment by myself for weeks on end. And I mean, I'm always going to consider myself a little crazy, but I've just kept myself busy, but not in a lock myself in a garage type way. I've been collaborating, I've been talking, I've been sharing, and I've already been reaping the benefits. Whether it is one person talking with me about an idea that was shared, um, that's what I guess I'll end this on, is a quote that said, small-minded people talk about people. I guess the average person talks about things, but then I guess a wise person talks about ideas. So I'll leave you guys with that. Thanks for listening. Look forward to next week, Sunday. Peace.